This is Stephanie Hoff from WisPolitics.com and WisBusiness.com, welcoming you to a webcast conversation with the state's superintendent candidates. This is a special series we're doing in partnership with the Milwaukee Tech Hub Coalition. The Tech Hub recognizes K-12 computer science education as vital to growing the region's technology economy. So ahead of the February 16th primary, we're going to see what the candidates have to offer. Each candidate is asked the same 3 questions from the Tech Hub. They did not see the questions ahead of time or hear each other's responses before recording. Steve Krull is here with me today. He is currently the principal at Garland Elementary in the Milwaukee area. Steve, thanks for wanting to chat with us today.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Stephanie, and to WisPolitics and everyone else for inviting me to this forum. I appreciate it.
So, Steve, right now, every industry is undergoing some kind of digital transformation. Here we are on Zoom. So, technological literacy is a gateway to upward mobility. However, technology and computer science standards are not consistently integrated into the expectations for a college and career-ready graduate. How is this specifically addressed by the equity-aligned priorities of your campaign?
Okay, yeah, this is a big question because right now there's a lot of confusion in my vision, in my opinion, about what is computer education. And you know, I see that a lot of people seem to think it's more about like being able to type or being able to use PowerPoint or be able to use an intervention program. But really, I see that computer education is more about doing something with the technology, and it can be software, hardware. So things like coding, 3D printing, and circuitry, you know, those types of things that can prepare you for the future. And we know that that type of education really can lead to college. It can also lead to higher levels of problem solving and also planning skills. And so it's definitely a must, in my opinion, to be able to do that. I do see, though, that there are challenges with just what people think is computer education. And so I think that we need to address that and make sure that people are trained in computer education, that we can really prioritize that doing instead of just, you know, being able to use. And I think that that would be able to help people move forward and get them prepared for the 21st century.
And now we'll talk about who's preparing students for the 21st century. The teacher and substitute shortage has been exacerbated by COVID-19. Teachers in Wisconsin are not generally required to demonstrate proficiency in tech and comp sci standards, but those that do are most likely to find opportunities in the private sector. So what public policy measures would you advocate for to ensure more capacity for tech literacy in schools, despite that shrinking supply of teachers who might be capable of achieving those outcomes?
Sure. Yes, this campaign, one of its pillars is around the teacher shortage. We have a teacher shortage in the thousands. It's very difficult to find teachers at this point. The school that I run actually is kind of a hub for several colleges to be able to student teach. And even with that, talking to those individuals who are at the colleges, they're saying like they're just not finding as many candidates. You know, we're seeing that there's not only a shortage in rural areas and urban areas and suburban areas, but there's also substitute shortages. And there's also shortages in specializations like bilingual education, special education, and computer science. And so we need to address that. This campaign really believes that we need to do or create an office within the Department of Education that specifically focuses on recruitment, retention, and training of teachers, because it's just not enough for the districts to be able to foot the bill on this. I mean, I know that organizations like Milwaukee Public Schools do have pipelines and pathways to try to fill some of these positions, but really I see this as a state type of responsibility, and not necessarily one in which one district or a group of districts are capable or have the capacity to address on their own. So really, we need to focus at the state level on attracting and retaining the very best educators in our state to our classrooms.
And that statewide approach might be applicable to the next question I have for you. Steve, about 52% of public high schools in Wisconsin offer a computer science course, but there are still barriers to scaling those offerings to purposefully include girls and students of color. So can you give us 2 to 3 of the largest barriers you see, and how will you and your team address those if elected?
No, absolutely. Just looking at the literature, there's some that suggest that there's a stigma associated with learning the computer sciences, as far as like getting women inside of the field. I will say this though. So, I personally believe in computer science. I believe in the ability to do computer education. And I started thinking about it actually when my kids were younger and they went to Discovery World in Milwaukee for summer enrichment camps, which that was awesome. And they learned things like coding, hardware programming, and other things. And really, when I became principal, I was like, well, we need to expand this type of idea to, the whole school, or to part of the school at least. And at the time, we were just expanding our middle school. So we had 5 teachers at that point. We had a math, a social studies, a science, a reading, and a writing teacher for 6th, 7th, and 8th grades. So that was 5 classes. Well, we had to add a 6th class because the class sizes were getting too large. And what I thought was, why don't we expand STEM and take the T part of that, of technology? And so we did. We then got a technology teacher, and they work with the 6th, 7th, and 8th grade students inside of the building. And they do things like coding. So the programs that they use for that, there's one called coding.org or code.org, and there's also one called, Scratch, which is from MIT. And so they use those during their day to work on these items. Other things we do with that course is that we actually do 3D printing. We were very fortunate to have a donated 3D printer to us actually around that time. And we use Tinkercad, which is another software program, to work with the kiddos on that. And, we also try to extend that into the elementary level. So we'll take some middle school students, and the middle school students will work then with elementary students and partner with other classrooms so they can do robotics and really kind of build those connections across the building, but also give them a taste of what middle school is going to be like with some of these types of educational opportunities. So really what I believe by doing this, it includes everybody. So all students are part of these courses. It's not an elective. Everybody is required to attend it. And I see that when you then, take that stigma away, because everybody's doing it and they're collaborating and they're problem solving and working on these projects, that they really, encourages everybody to move forward. Now, something about our building, we do have, it's a very diverse building. And so we actually have about 1/3 of our kids who are English learners from about over 20 languages. And, we also have a wild mix, or a large mix of races and ethnicities in our building too. And so all students really want to learn. And, I think that in our way has eliminated that stigma. So what I would do then is take this model of encouraging kiddos to participate inside of this structure of computer science. And, we need to push it down to the middle school level. So then by the time kiddos get to high school, they're not thinking, oh, this is just a male-dominated field, so I don't want to choose this, elective course. Really, all students will be comfortable with the basics, and they'll probably feel a little bit better about joining those classes. And so that's kind of the way that I'm going to approach it, is definitely encourage districts to push this down to in a more meaningful way. Because really, like I said earlier, these types of programs lead to higher chances of college, lead to higher chances of problem solving, and also planning skills. And we definitely need these skills for 21st century jobs, especially as we're seeing automation and we're seeing AI take on more. So yeah, we definitely gotta get this in a little bit younger of a time. So.
Great, Steve. Well, we really appreciate you coming on today to share your thoughts, and I wish you good luck in the primary.